Chiefs rookie minicamp takes place this weekend between May 4th and May 7th, as around 70 rookies will be out there on the field trying to prove to the coaches that they belong on the Chiefs roster in 2024. The camp will include all 7 of the Chiefs draft picks, more than a dozen undrafted free agents, or UDFAs, and around 50 tryout players trying to show that they belong. And don't discount those guys. Last year, Echo Boydo made this team as a tryout player. But for now, let's talk about the UDFAs specifically, because this group is interesting, and we'll begin with the running backs. Carson Steele is a name to know from UCLA, but before he was a Bruin, he was a star at Ball State. In 2022, he racked up 1,556 rushing yards and 15 total touchdowns while forcing 96 missed tackles. He then transferred to UCLA last year to challenge himself, and he did well. He led the Bruins in rushing. Another running back to know is Amani Bailey from TCU. This guy rushed for 1,209 yards and 8 touchdowns last year while averaging 5.4 yards per carry. In fact, Bailey was one of only 9 Power 5 players to average more than 100 rushing yards per game and one of just 3 to record 70 or more forced missed tackles. Next, let's talk about some cornerback prospects in this year's camp, beginning with Miles Battle from Utah. Now, this guy is a long corner. He stands at 6'4", and he's actually a former wide receiver from Ole Miss who made the switch to cornerback about halfway through his career there. In total, Battle logged 45 career appearances as a defensive player in college between Ole Miss and Utah, recording 97 tackles, 22 passes defensed, 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble. Last year specifically for the Utes, he recorded 4 passes defensed and a pick in 13 games. Another corner to know is Christian Roland Wallace from USC. This is a player who spent most of his career at Arizona before transferring to USC last year, and he was sure to leave his mark, leading the Trojans in interceptions and passes defensed in 12 games last season. This is also an experienced player. Between Arizona and USC, he recorded 3,326 defensive snaps and 536 special teams snaps. He was also durable. He didn't miss a single game over the last 5 years. Sticking on the defensive side of the ball, maybe one of the best value signings of the UDFA period was Curtis Jacobs from Penn State, a linebacker that Dane Brugler from The Athletic had as his number 10 linebacker in this year's class and a potential 5th-round pick. Now, he fell out of the draft for whatever reason, but now he's here in Kansas City with an opportunity to show what he can do. And he was really good at Penn State during his career there. He was a stalwart on their defense over the last 4 seasons, appearing in 45 games with 36 starts. He logged at least 45 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks in each of the last 3 seasons, and he was also a core special teamer for them, recording 337 special team snaps over the last 3 years. Lastly, let's talk about some wide receivers in this year's camp, beginning with a local player and Lee's Summit's own Phillip Brooks, who went to K-State and starred for the Wildcats, recording at least 40 catches for 500 yards and multiple scores in each of the last 3 seasons. He set career bests in all 3 categories last year, logging 53 grabs for 589 yards and 5 touchdowns. He finished his career in Manhattan with 182 catches for 2,127 yards and 14 scores in 65 career games. We'll wrap up with Reggie Brown from James Madison, a receiver who broke out in a big way last year with 53 catches for 1,054 yards and 9 touchdowns in 13 games. He recorded at least one 20-yard catch in 11 of those 13 games, including 6 games with at least one 40-yard catch. He's a player that was mostly a reserve for most of his career at James Madison, who got an opportunity last year and certainly made the most of it. So those are just a few names to know among this year's UDFAs, and while these guys weren't drafted, they're now here in Kansas City, and they have an opportunity to show what they can do and maybe earn a spot on the Chiefs roster.